Objections, specifically, how to overcome them. And I'm going to talk about this, kind of put a framework, just all my experience of doing this since 2001, timeshare. And I had to get my timeshare license. I looked in an old letter from the Real Estate Commission. It was actually licensed April 2001. So that was spring break in my senior year of high school. Started learning about this stuff, but we really kind of, and I've been a student ever since. And so I want to break some of that down for you all, what I call the objection matrix.
Hey, this is Blake Sloan. I've been selling real estate over 14 years. Our team of highly trained professionals, along with our unmatched marketing, has sold thousands of homes here in the Myrtle Beach area, and this is how we do it.
Which is just a simple framework for you all to learn and have in that scenario. Okay, so actually I'll put it up here. What's the first thing? If I get an objection, what's the first thing I want to do?
Acknowledge the objection.
Okay, acknowledge it, but what? Yeah, that's the key part. Yes. What's the first thing? So I acknowledge it, I say it, I accept it, and what I do? Ask. Who was it? Isolate the objection. So first step for me in the objection is going to be to isolate that. And we'll talk about acknowledging. That's like the precursor, right?
You don't want to steamroll and then move on to the next.
Yeah, which is super important. If you just ignore it, you're going to get nailed the back end. One of my biggest mistakes I made in timeshare in the beginning is I was so scared when I was brand new to overcome and tackle the objection, so I would just hope that it would go away. And what do you think would happen every single time that I didn't overcome that objection? I can still visualize to this day, 20 years later, what the model looked like, the two-story loft I would show. And if I would get a couple objections in there and I was too scared to overcome it, but I thought they liked me and they're going to sell it, they're going to buy anyways. They really like me a lot. And guess what? We get back to the back, and what will they tell me? We like you a lot, but we're just going to think about it. We're not really going to buy it today. Or they would tell me what? The same exact objection they gave me in the condo that I didn't overcome. And so you have to make sure that anything you get, you have to overcome it early and often. Okay? And so I just share that because I went through that, and it was a very powerful learning experience for me. And it didn't take very long, and once I got pissed off enough to overcome them, guess what happened? Deals started laying down, deals started happening because I attacked them early on in the process or presentation, however you want to call it. Right? So first step, right, is to isolate the objection. One of the first things I want to do from that, though, just kind of have that, make sure that you're clear, is repeat it. Why is that important?
Let them know you heard it.
Let them know I heard it. Let them know they can hear that I heard them. But also to do what? To clarify. Make sure this is the right objection. Sometimes what happens is we hear it differently. So, hey, just so I'm clear, what you're saying is, right? So they give me a thing I want to think about, talk to my wife. Hey, I totally understand. I appreciate that. Just so I'm clear, you like everything. You saw everything. The only thing holding you back is you would need to talk to your wife first. Is that correct? You guys with me on that? See how I framed that up? So I did what? I cushioned it in a way where I said, hey, I appreciate that. I totally understand. So what you're telling me is you liked everything. You love everything. You know it's a fit for you. And it would benefit you. You just need to talk to your wife first. Is that correct? Boom. Super simple. What do I do there? I got agreeance with them that that's the number one thing stopping them. At that point, then what am I going to be able to say? Right? Great. I appreciate that. I totally understand. What else am I going to say? I have that in my thing. I'll just say that for you, right? I appreciate that. I totally understand. Right, that's going to lead me to the next one, which is where I start to isolate it. Right? The thing I wrote down from isolation here.
Is that the only thing stopping you from moving forward, or the only thing holding you back?
So how can I word that? I wrote down in my notes here, is that the only thing? That's a simplified way. Right? So, how could I say that? Hey, John, appreciate that. I totally understand. So what you're telling me is you love and like the product. You know this is unlike anything you've ever seen before. It would totally benefit you to see and talk to your wife. Is that correct? Yes, great. And so is that the only thing that would be stopping you from moving forward today, is just talking with your wife? Why is that important? Why do I got to do that? This is a fundamental checklist I have to do in my mind in the process of psychology. Why? Right. Because what happens if I don't isolate, if I don't trial close and stop them on the isolation, what's going to happen is I go down that rabbit hole with them, I battle with them for 5 or 10 minutes, we overcome the objection, all of a sudden what else happens? There's another objection, which is also just a smoke screen that overcomes what? Fear. Their fear, and they're throwing shit out there because they're scared of commitment, they're scared of being locked in, they're scared of a bad scenario with you, where they don't like you, whatever it is. And so it's important for me to go through this process of checking the boxes of the mind, and I call it closing the door so they can't do what? Open and run out or go back out. It's the same thing our script does, right? And qualifying them and asking the questions, and by the time we make the offer, there's no way for them to get out of it. Does that make sense? And so it's important for me to understand here, I got to make sure I do it. So, how do I say it? Is that the only thing blank? Right? Is that the only thing that will keep you from moving forward today is talking to your wife first? Or whatever it is, in that scenario. Thinking about it, whatever it is in that scenario, I want to make sure I do that. Because if not, and you learn this, and everybody in this room has probably had this happen, you go overcome the objection, you think you're good, and all of a sudden they do what? Throw you another one out there. And you're like, I totally messed that out. Now you can't really go back and isolate. Because if I do isolate after the second objection, what do they know I'm doing? They know I'm closed and unboxing them in. It has to be here before their wall of defense is up, and I have a great conversational back and forth with them, because once I overcome the objection, I'm going to have some type of collision with them. Does that make sense? So it's very, very important. Another way to word that I have saved here is aside from blank. How could I word that? So, go ahead.
I was about to say, besides talking to your wife, is this the only thing that could prevent us from moving along today?
Yeah, perfect. Say, aside from you just having the opportunity to sit down and talk with your wife about this, that's the only thing holding you back, right? Everything else makes sense. You know it's a benefit for you. Is that correct? Boom. Now, how much easier that I've set that stage does that allow me to go into the wife objection? But what we do sometimes is we prematurely attack the wife objection without isolating it, and it feels more combative. Because what I've done here is I've tied him or her down 3 different ways that they're committed to what we do. They like it. It's a benefit. You have to make sure that you tie it in the isolation, that what you have is a benefit for them. Does that make sense? It makes my objection overcoming that much more powerful in the back end, because guess what? I just got commitment from him or her that it is still a benefit, the only thing in the world. And at that point, they think that I'm going to do what? Let them go talk to the wife, and they're going to be able to disappear into the abyss. But they don't know I'm a true professional, a true closer, so I'm setting them up for the back end to help them get to where they need to do. Am I setting them up for the right reason? Yeah, because I know what I have to benefit for them. I know they're just scared. And so my job as a closer is to help them overcome that fear, because I know what I have is a hell of a lot better than talking to some random agent on Zillow. Okay, so very, very important for me to understand that piece. You guys with me on that? Should be clear. Now, once I've done that, what's the next thing I need to do? This is a framework for us to use in everything, but it's just the best pieces that we've done for overall. What's the next piece?
Get to work on the objection.
Next time we do is cushion it. What does that mean, cushion it?
I can completely understand that, or like, hey, I bet you're a lot like me, or something like that.
Yep.
Totally understand. I feel the same way. Whatever.
Totally understand. You're a lot like me. Or, hey, I totally understand, Ryan, you're a lot like my other clients. And I'm going to use this thing that we had in time. Does anybody know what it is?
I don't know where you're going.
Feel, felt, found.
Oh, yeah.
Right? Feel, felt, found. Super simple. This is basic, fundamental stuff. But if I have this framework in my mind, and it works the same way, I totally understand exactly where you're coming from. You actually are a lot like a lot of my other clients who didn't have their wife here when they met me the first time. Right? So I know exactly how you feel. My other clients felt the same exact way. But what they found was this is such a benefit for them that they didn't have to worry about what their wife thought, because their wife actually loved what they saw, and their wife loved them making a good decision and taking action. Right? You see what I'm doing here? And that point I'm going to. So I'm doing what? Cushioning it. I'm letting them know what? You're not the only one. Because me doing that does what for them? Connection. It lets them lay their guard down a little bit. Because most of them are just terrified to be sold anything. The reason you get pushback on clients is they're terrified of being sold. The reason people tell you they just look in store, they're terrified to be sold. Okay? And so it's important for us to understand, hey, look, I totally understand where you're coming from. I know exactly how you feel. A lot of clients felt the same exact way you did. What they found was, and then I'm transitioning to what? I'm transitioning to the close, really. Are you with me on this? So the way to do this is I know exactly how you feel. My clients, whoever else, felt the same exact way. What they found was, and that's the process of me starting to do what? Reframe them. But I'm doing this smoothly based on just a word track that I have, and I can plug and play anything in this. There's some basic shit right here, but it's very important that you use it. And that you master it so no matter what problem you come up with, you create your own word track. That's kind of why I'm teaching this today. If we don't have to memorize 50,000 word tracks, you can just memorize the basic foundation and the matrix of objections and be able to use this on anybody. Are you with me on this? So I spent some time walking through and designing this so I can figure out, okay, how to help you guys do it yourself. So the next piece is going to be two main things. It's going to be the reframe. And the resell. What do you think that's going to entail? What's going to be in there? This is when I start basically doing the ninja work and start punching on them a little bit. What's some things I can say at that point to make a difference?
Have you considered?
Not quite yet. That's coming up next, though. What's the number one thing closers say?
I can show you how we can get
What I
started.
found, the true beauty.
I'm going to say, I'm going to lead and transit. Let me ask you a question. That's when I start transitioning. Right? Does she know you came in today to meet with me? Right? Does she trust you? Whatever it is in that scenario. There's a few different ones I'm doing. You can say, let me ask you a question. You can also say, let me ask you this. That's a transition point for me to start doing what? I'm setting a new frame around them that's going to allow me to be able to start overcoming the objections. There's just some different words and things I want to use here that make a difference in that scenario. Next we're going to do. If I could, would you? I think somebody said that, right? If I could, would you? How can I use that?
I can show you a better way.
If I could show you a way that you can take advantage of this without ever upsetting your wife and being able to cancel it anytime if she didn't like what you said, is that something you might be interested in? That's if I'm getting down the road, right? Just trying to think of something off the top of my head. If I could, would you? If I could show you a way that's much more efficient, right? Much better for your home search and save you time and money over anything else, is that something you might be interested in? That's, you want to get something you master that and use it all the time. That's my pre-frame when I'm in the property, right? Same thing. Let me ask you a question. How you guys going to search your properties now? Whatever it is. Oh, great. Let me ask you this. If I could show you a way that's much more efficient, much more effective, that would save you a lot more money when you buy, over the way you're doing it now, is that something you might be interested in? And then what that does is it allows me to do what? Start selling them by them opening up their mind. But I'm doing this surgery of the brain here through questions which allows them to open up the gate of the mind that's holding back because of fear. You with me on this? That makes sense? Am I losing you? So it's very important you understand the process what I'm going through in that scenario. Then I'm going to start adding in pieces here. There are trial closes. What are some examples of that? Jordan Belfort gives you a couple good ones. Remember what they are? Do you like the idea? Remember that?
The idea makes sense.
Yep. Does the idea make sense to you?
Yeah, benefits.
Do you see how it can benefit? Do you see how this can benefit you and your family and help get your children into the new home where they can each have their own bedroom? Right? Whatever it is in that scenario, now I'm going back to linking that to their pain and linking that to their initial situation there so I can make what? The overall process and the solution relevant to them what they want. A couple other ones too that are really good. I want to add in here for you all. Just out of curiosity.
Just out of curiosity.
Yeah, have you heard that before though?
Yeah.
You read that anywhere? We use this in timeshare a lot, but it's actually in a book you read recently. Remember what it was? It's in the book exactly what they say.
Exactly what they're saying.
It's in both books, I think. So, it's a very, very good one. Hey, just out of curiosity, how long have you been married to your wife? Now, what's that doing there? It keeps them from lying to me in their response because it's non-threatening how I'm transitioning. These are transitional phrases that allow me to make sure I can open up the close, and I make it a lot less friction in terms of how we're going to go into that conversation. Because what a lot of salespeople do, they become combative. If you're smooth in a master closure, it doesn't get combative. It's just a chess match of the brain. And so if I know what to say and have these right word tracks, these are like a gambit. Anybody know what a gambit is? It's on people moving chess. That's what? It's pre-planned. Makes sense? You have these certain moves you can use. You almost beat anybody. My dad taught me when I was a kid, that's like 4 moves I can beat like 60% of people in chess just with the first few moves. Anybody know what that move is? You didn't see that? Basically, I think it uses, I can't remember which one, the bishop and the queen. And you make a couple moves and basically you can take just about anybody out. What is it? Yes, and they don't know any clue that you're doing it. Most people, obviously anybody who plays chess a lot does, but the reality is most consumers aren't going to know what you're doing if you do this right. Okay, and so it's very valuable for us to understand, look, how do I layer these in? I can use these as very non-threatening, non-confrontational transition pieces where I'm setting traps for them they can't get out of. So where are they again? Let me ask you a question. Let me ask you this. If I could, would you? At my trial close this year, which is you like the idea, does the idea make sense? Can you see how this benefits you? We need to add this in 80% of our presentations over and over and over and over and over. These are different transition points and closes that you can add to where? Each and every box in your presentation. As well as on the back end when it comes up for you. Okay, which I think is just something we haven't really talked a lot about in a long time. I look at it as being super basic, but it's some things we miss out on. And that if you don't, study this for a long time, you're not going to remember what it is. Okay? Another really good one that I want you to understand when I start making the transition is just imagine. How can I use that?
Just imagine you and your grandkids out here playing baseball.
Yeah. Just imagine what it's going to be like when we get through this process and get through this fear that you have, and we can have your grandkids down here in Myrtle Beach throwing the baseball on the beach with you. Or just imagine what your wife's going to say when she sees you finally took action to get you guys out of that rental property and get the home of your dreams to be able to find a realtor who can get you what you need to do because the last 6 months hasn't gotten you there. Right? Whatever it is. And that's when I start to do what you see how my intensity heats up when I say just imagine. That's why I'm starting to add more intensity as I go through this process. This is the transition point after I battle the wife. How long you're married? Does she know you're here? Does she trust you? Right? Well, just imagine what it's going to be like when your wife does understand you finally took action to get you guys where you need to be. So I'm switching the tide to how I'm operating there to make sure I can get them to follow along with me where I want to go. Does that make sense, y'all? Super important piece here for us to understand and look at. And that what I'm doing here is I'm setting up the last stage here, which is what? Close. What's a good one for the close? How do I transition to close?
Transition to the close yourself.
Yeah. What's a good one? You told me earlier.
Shit, I did. And you said not yet.
Yes, what was it?
Oh, shit, I forgot.
I'm going to have you consider.
Oh, yeah, I'm going to have you consider. Yeah.
Why does that go there? This is when I start to closing. So what I do, I'm opening up that piece right there for me to bring in the final blow, right? The final haymaker in that scenario. And then I'm going to be able to go to that transition, right? So it's very, very valuable to me to understand and make sure I use that piece when I do that overall. Next close I can use, I guess I ran out of room here. Based on blank, do you blank? How can I use that?
Based on everything you've seen today. Do you feel comfortable?
Yeah, do you see how this can benefit you and your family? Do you feel comfortable working with me as your realtor? Right? Based on everything you've seen here, based on the feedback you give me today, tell me this is obviously unlike anything you've ever seen. You can see the benefit, how it saved you money. Do you feel comfortable with me representing you as your realtor and taking advantage of this process? Whatever it is. Okay? Big key word there for me to make sure I'm using overall with that in that process. Another great one to have after my close, I'm overcoming the objection. I explain the objection, handle it to them, and the one thing I say to make sure I close is one of my favorite ones ever is fair enough. How can I use that? Is that fair enough? Right, that's my after my actual close, fair enough, right? I use it on my cancellation guarantee. That scenario, if I could show you a way where you could take advantage of this and still be able to talk to your wife and cancel any time if it didn't deliver to what we said it would do, is that something I'd be interested in? That's something to be open-minded to. Yes, great. And I go through explain it. I much rather do business with a handshake. The real estate commission requires me to have some type of agreement in place, right? Go through that process, overcome it, right? Just want to get you guys taken care of. If you don't like this, blah, blah, show the cancellation guarantee. That sound fair enough? Right? It's a way for me to just have a tie down at the back end, and it's hard for that person to say no. It's hard for him or her to say, well, that's not really fair. And if they do, I say, well, how is that not fair? You told me you want to talk to your wife, told me you want to take advantage of this. You told me that was the only thing stopping you today, but I'm giving you a fair enough way to make sure that you can take advantage of this and I don't lose my real estate license by you having this cancellation guarantee and talking to your wife tonight. Does that make sense? So it's very, very valuable for me to have that tool overall in that scenario. And the last one here that I want you to make sure I have for this piece, which is a simple one. Does that work for you? Does that work for you? There's multiple other ones. I was trying to keep it on 4. Isolate it, right? Which start out by repeating the objection. I also call that clarifying the objection. And I've had times where I repeated this and it wasn't actually what they thought it was. Or it wasn't what I thought it was. What they thought it was is different what I thought it was. And so it allows me to make sure I'm on the same page. What's the next one? I appreciate that. I totally understand. Right? In that scenario, which I think is a good one to have that piece there. Is that the only thing blank? Aside from X, is that the only thing, stop you from aside from talking to your wife, is that the only thing holding you back? Yes. Aside from you having a day to think or a day or two to think about it. Is that the only thing holding you back? Aside from having to meet with the other realtor today at 2 o'clock, is that the only thing holding you back? Yes. And so if I get that, what do I do at that point?
Then you go into, hey, I totally understand. You feel that way. I have other people I met with in the past who have also felt that way, but what they found was, after meeting with those other people, they realized they hold...
Right, exactly right. You're on the right track, right? And so at that point, I isolate that, and I move on to the next piece in that piece, right? Yeah, to understand that, I appreciate you. I know exactly how you feel. It's important here to hit that you know exactly how they feel, because they feel like you don't understand how they feel. They have fear, they have anxiety, they have bad experiences, they have previous things in their life, which was a big problem for them. And so for you, it's important that you connect with them and let them understand, hey, look, this is what I feel, this is important. Now, today's one's super simple right here. Very, very important, right? But you go back and just master these basics, because you can't just take this and do it on a Tuesday and remember it all. You got to go back. This is shit that took me 20 years. I've used these thousands of times, and it's really the top 4 main things that we use. Okay, are there smaller closes in between? Yes. Where I think a lot of y'all can get better is your trial closes on the presentation. If you're getting a lot of objections on the back end, what you want to do is figure out, how do I take these objections on the back end and add more trial closes on the front end so that doesn't happen anymore. I did a teaching a while ago where I talked about the power of an objection once it's verbalized is like 10x the power of objection if it's not internalized. Meaning they're thinking in their head, I need to think about it, it's not really sure. If I let them verbalize that objection, it's 10 times more powerful because they verbalize that as a human and now it's actually real. But if I can overcome that while it's still in their brain, it's much easier for me to overcome, which is why I want to do it early and often. I do early and often when my trial closes. Right? Is this all a big game? Yeah, it is. And you can fight the game of psychology and how people think, or you can play the game to win. It's very, very important to understand that you want to make sure. And here's the thing. Why does this actually work? Because everybody's human. If you watch humans right now, they're being manipulated every single day, every single way by evil forces, in my opinion. If you look at social media, the way people are saying, things are doing, right? I'm here for good because I know what I have is a much better product. I know people are scared to take action, and so my job as a leader, as a business leader, and as an expert agent is to make sure my people make the right decision while they're face-to-face with me. We've all had people that didn't sign with us and went on somewhere else and had a bad experience. And so for my job and my responsibility there is to have them make sure that they can make the right decision while they're sitting face-to-face with me. You with me on this? Now, the key part to this is once I get the objection, I didn't really put this in here, but I want to make sure that I must maintain or increase my energy. Why? Yeah.
in the middle of everything that's going on.
And once I'm good at overcoming objections, I want to look forward to objections, right? It's like I mentioned before, it's like ping pong, and somebody lobs it up to you, you can smash it back down. If you practice enough, you feel good and comfortable about that. You're not scared to do that when you're face-to-face with people. Okay? Talk about the reframe, the resale. The big things. Let me ask you this. Let me ask you a question. If I could, would you? My trial closes here, which is, do you like the idea? Does the idea make sense? Can you see how it's benefits you? Right? Just imagine is also one. And also, just out of curiosity. Just transitions you want to study and have. Now, here's the thing. If I don't use these or don't study them, what happens? You forget about them. They're just not top of mind, so I want to make sure I'm constantly practicing this piece in the close, which is the most important part overall. What are my main things here? I'm going to have you consider, right? Based on blank, do you blank? Is that fair enough? And what was the last one? Does that work for you? Super simple there.